The Eagles go in, stomp the Rams behind an incredible performance from Saquon Barkley in that offensive line. Tonight we'll see Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens go against Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers. So that leaves us with a gigantic amount to talk to. By the way, it's Doug Gottlieb Show, and not only we're in the TireRack.com studios, we're live in Columbus, Ohio, Dan, where you tell me what Ohio State gear you need. I'll pick it up before we take on the Buckeyes tonight at it's Value City Arena now, not just Schottenstein Center again. So there are some changes here. But before we get to the college football or even my basketball team, let's talk about Saquon's performance. And it is interesting that on back-to-back nights we have two of these running backs who are telling everybody we need to get paid more money, and both have been super valuable for their team's success. Now, if we're real and we're not just a suck up to the players and we're not prisoners of the moment, we know that the argument is not over whether or not they're going to play well this year. It's what's the value of this year and then how many years guaranteed, because running backs tend to age. They age more like milk than they do fine wine. They just do. But Barkley's performance was incredible. Incredible. Here's his head coach, Nick Sirianni, on his performance.
On the first play of the second half, he makes a cut that I didn't think anybody else could make. Like, he just stopped on a dime. He put his left foot in the ground and went around the edge, and then he just hit the gas. Man, when you have the type of quickness, lateral movement that Saquon has, with the ability to accelerate and the speed to finish, and the power to break it through an arm tackle. I mean, he's got everything you look for in a back. He's been awesome, and he was awesome tonight.
Yeah, this is one of those deals where it's the kind of stuff that gets you fired, especially because this is kind of like the perfect storm. So oftentimes the stories that we see on Hard Knocks, and we fall in love with these players, and then the season gets going and it kind of gets lost in the football ether. Right? Because we concentrate on some guy who had a non-guaranteed contract makes the team and the struggles and strifes, and maybe a little bit about the quarterback, but maybe a lot about an offensive lineman or a coach or whomever. In this particular case, the New York Giants' former team were the subject of the off-season version of Hard Knocks, and he essentially became the focal point for it. And then the owner, John Mara, is like, what I really don't want to see is Saquon Barkley starring for the Philadelphia Eagles. Oops. 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 It's a hard one. It's a hard one. And when you consider, because I don't actually agree with the idea that, hey, they locked into long-term with Danny Dimes, but they didn't want to lock. It wasn't one or the other. They were in different years. Now, could they have locked into Saquon Barkley for a long-term deal going back last year alongside Daniel Jones? Of course they could have. They still could have had him back, regardless of Daniel Jones' contract. They were just thinking, like the rest of the National Football League, hey, contracts are going to stay flat. We're right there. They only missed out by $1 million. But the reality is, the way Saquon felt from the moment that he didn't get the long-term extension he desired until the moment that he agreed to terms and signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, that's where it was lost. It had nothing to do with the final tally. It's the, you don't value me, you don't value me, you don't value me, and I've been fighting with a dysfunctional cast of characters. It's a fine line there. Right? Ezekiel Elliott got signed to a long-term deal with the Dallas Cowboys. That wasn't ever worth the money that he was paid. They could have allowed him to walk. They could have negotiated with him. Saquon, you would have felt is different. But I said this a couple weeks ago, and I mean it, and this is really true. This is a hard decision for Saquon Barkley. He was a beloved member of the New York Giants. And you're in New York City, and no matter what you think of New York, the reality is it's still the media capital of the world. And the second you get done as New York Giant, especially somebody as bright and likable as Saquon Barkley is, there's a TV gig waiting for you. Now, again, some of that has changed, right? I mean, Jason Kelsey's going to have a nighttime show, and he was a center for the Philadelphia Eagles, Right? So nowadays, personalities can break through. But it is different when you're a New York Giant. But as a football player, just as a football player, his decision changed the perception of his career forever. Before, he was just best player on a bad team. Everybody liked him. You felt some sort of sympathy for the fact that he was playing with an average quarterback and a very average to below average offensive line. And on a non-distinct, maybe they make the playoffs, maybe they don't. Who cares on a yearly basis? Now he's on a Super Bowl contender that's dedicated to running the football, that has quality personnel around him, and he's felt to be loved. Regardless of the fact that the money wasn't really that different, in the same division, they made him feel valued, and now he's repaying that exponentially with his performances. I'm not going to sit here and say he saved his career. His career wasn't going away, but he dramatically changed how we're ever going to look at his career. I mean, just ask yourself, go through all of these players, best player on bad teams, and you're like, Plus, when you're a best player on a bad team, you're always behind, and you're a running back, you don't ever get the ball. Now he's the best player, the go-to guy with a group of guys that have had playoff success before, that are going to win their division, and they're going to give him the football. Doesn't mean he goes to or wins the Super Bowl, but he's going to have far more bites at the apple with the Philadelphia Eagles than he ever would with the New York Giants. That's reality. And it has nothing to do with who you're a fan of. I'm definitely not a fan of the Eagles, nor am I particularly a fan of the Giants. This is just reality talking. And this is somebody who preaches loyalty, college, pro, high school. If you can, stay, fix it. But he got a better offer for a better team, one that runs the football, has better schemes, has a better quarterback, appears to be better coached, and definitely better personnel. All those things being better gives him more opportunities to look great. You give him opportunities to look great. And, 2 weeks ago, he jumps over somebody backwards. This week, it's like he's using the force. When he stiff arms, nobody even gets near his hand. They just fall down. The guy is incredible. It's a hard decision to leave a place that loves you. You have sweat equity. That's your everything, too. But even the most loyal employees, right? And I was at one place for 10 years, one for 5, and now this is year 8 with Fox Sports Radio. Right? Even the most loyal, at some point, you got to go fit, upside, how do they value me? I think he nailed it. I really did. And this is from somebody who, I'm like most of you, I can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles fans. But they got themselves an absolute warrior in Saquon Barkley, and he fits so well with how they want to play, and he's taken his own game and the perception of his own game to another level. That's the Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. You're coming to you live from the TireRack.com studios. Rapid Radio is our official communication device of Fox Sports Radio. Rapid Radio's instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies, offering national LTE coverage and no subscription or monthly fees. It's a great alternative to mobile phones for you and your kids. We use them right here in the show. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off. By the way, here's the opposing coach. Here's Sean McVay talking about preparing for Saquon Barkley.
The thing that's hard is you get into some of these aggressive looks and you give him a vertical seam to the second level, and he's got the ability to be able to erase angles and work edges and make people miss. And, the last one, you're in a really aggressive defense trying to be able to get a stop on a 3rd and 5. Somebody doesn't follow a puller back, and that's where, he's got the ability to finish those plays. The one coming out of the second half, I'll have to go back and look at it, but, it's the thing that makes him so dangerous, Jordan, is that you get him the ability to get to the second level unabated, and he gets enough speed, and he's excellent. He's as good as there is as a slash runner to be able to work edges and then be able to erase angles and be able to finish. And that's why he had the production that he had, and that's why he's had, arguably an MVP type of season so far. Here's Jalen Hurts, his quarterback, on Saquon Barkley.
He's a hell of a player, and I said that. After the Jacksonville game, and how blessed he is to do some of the things he's capable of, and you accompany that You know, when you accompany an issue with other issues, you become a problem. And he set the tone for us, especially at the end. You think about these 4-minute situations where he takes it over, you know, and I think back to, and I told Saquon this, I think back to moments where we may have lost a game in the past or maybe mismanaged a 4-minute situation where he's truly making things easier for us when it comes to how we handle 4-minute situations because of his capabilities, even with a loaded box, being able to hit a home run.
Here's Saquon Barkley on his performance.
You can't do it alone. I'm surrounded about great players, and if you look at every single play that I made today, you can see so many other players going above and beyond.
It's pretty awesome, right? Pretty awesome. It's humble, but it's also accurate. You know, the difference is twofold. The hole is there, and then he has the explosiveness and the vision and the ability to hit the hole on time and then explode through it. Pretty cool story. You know, so oftentimes people in my position, we crush dudes that switch teams. We talk about a lack of loyalty. We saw this play out. This is the great thing about that Hard Knocks show, is we saw it play out. It's a gamble. They thought the Eagles were bluffing. They thought they were right there. And at the end of the day, they didn't get him. And now he's every Giants fan's nightmare. And probably the death knell in their GM, Joel Shane's ability to continue on in his position. That would be my